All right, I would like to call tonight's city council meeting to order. It is Tuesday, December the 15th at 7 p.m. We are conducting this meeting via Zoom. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Carl,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman,
Here.
Councilmember Weil,
She will be here shortly.
Mayor.
Here. Next item, please.
Item number 2, communications. Mayor, we have no written communications. However, Chief Wolf does have a presentation for us.
Is Chief Wolf coming over to the, oh, there he is. Okay, great, thanks.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good
City
evening.
Council. I'd also like to welcome Chief Rick Knox, who's the Executive Director of the Major K Squad. He's here tonight as well. Ms. Sondag, Ms. Mandel, thank you. So I wanted to recognize the investigators that you see standing behind me for the job that they did on the I-70 murder that we had, 170 murder that we had a couple weeks ago. Because of their job, because of what they did, they will be receiving the Olivet Police Department's Award of Excellence. And I'd like to read to you the letter that will accompany the award. This letter serves to recognize the dedication to duty and actions of these investigators during a Major K Squad of Greater St. Louis investigation. On November 30th of 2020, the Olivet Police Department responded to a shooting on Interstate 170. Upon arrival at the scene, officers discovered the victim, Kristen Whitted, had sustained a gunshot wound. Suspects were not immediately located. Kristen was transported to the hospital, but later succumbed to her injuries. The Major K Squad of Greater St. Louis was activated to investigate this heinous homicide. The investigation lasted 5 days. On December 4th, 2020, the Major K Squad successfully concluded the investigation with the arrest of the suspect responsible for Kristen's death. The St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged that person with first-degree murder. Due to their dedication to duty and relentless pursuit of justice, these investigators provided extremely valuable assistance to the Major K Squad's investigation. The actions of these investigators are to be commended, and their tenacity in the line of duty is to be recognized. Detective Sergeant Schneider, Sergeant Garrett Wood, Sergeant Tim Lothan, and Detective Cummins are assets to the Olivet Police Department and the people in St. Louis County. I'm very proud of these guys. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As I mentioned last week, each one of you has brought honor to yourselves, to the department, and to the city of Olivet. It was your relentless pursuit to find the perpetrator of that horrible, horrible shooting that led to the arrest and charge of that individual. And I know that I speak on behalf of the council. We could not be more proud, and the citizens of the city of Olivet should be, and I'm sure they are, equally as proud. So thank you. The award is well deserved. And I know that having you out there doing this job is a benefit for all of us and should make us all feel really, really good. So thank you. Zoom is so weird. All right, so we have no more written communications, no more presentations, so we can move on to the next item? Okay.
Item number 3, city manager's report.
Thank you. Let me open this up. Okay. And ahead and share my screen with you here tonight. Okay, everyone see that okay? Not long after I started here, we had a number of people in the old City Hall council chambers, quite a few people who came and to talk about the stormwater issues that they were having. A lot of these folks were at the area of Cherry Tree. So it's probably been 6-7 years ago now. And after that, we really started, Public Works Director Bruce McGregor. We started looking, we knew there were issues there. We looked at how we could mitigate some of those matters. And in fact, we did about a $90,000 project there. It was one of the first times we used the Park Stormwater Fund for stormwater matter. And we also started working with MSD. And we worked with MSD. They knew there was a problem and they put it on their list. And that's why, and once something goes on MSD's list, you don't really know when it's going to come up. This last week, they started a Project Clear project there on Cherry Tree. And it is a very involved project. Most people, luckily, it's a dead end street. Most people don't see it. It does end kind of at the trail that we have, kind of going along from Dealman to Lindley. And so the trail is closed in that area while this project's kind of going on. But I just want to thank, the tenacity of our Public Works Director, Bruce McGregor, to stay on this. I want to thank the residents in this area for their persistence, as well as for their patience now. As you can see in the top left picture, there is not a lot of room on that road where they're putting in this large infrastructure. But I think it's a success of kind of identifying, kind of that problem, really working together, but also working with the other entities, public entities, and getting this project moved up. And I think that the crew that's out there working, thus far, they've been doing a pretty good job in a very tight space. So I just want to let folks know that project was underway, and a little bit of the history of it as well. The project will go beyond Cherry Tree, though, just so people know. It'll go north up to Crabapple, and it is a significant project for the city, although a small project in the eyes of MSD. And sometimes those smaller projects take a little bit longer to get to move up their project lists. A lot of other updates. Sergeant Garrett Wood, who was just here, has been promoted to lieutenant for the Olivet Police Department. He will, the promotion won't be effective until the end of this month, and the council will be swearing him in January. So he'll have I think 3 council meetings in a row where you'll get to congratulate him. I had mentioned this last time, but I think it's worth mentioning again. The new permitting and inspection software utilized by the building department will be going live on January 1st of 2021. Spencer Contracting continues to do concrete work on Dealman Road. Their ability to get this project done and to continue to working on this with the weather that we've had has been just really phenomenal. They are actually working to complete the concrete work of the sidewalk from Marlbrook to Hillendale. And that really will get most of that concrete work accomplished before they start buttoning up the project for the winter. The city's municipal relief program grant, that is the funding that is available through the county cares for municipalities in the county. We are in our final review stage. It is at the audit firm that the county has selected to review all the grant applications. They have had a couple of questions for us. So we'll be getting back on that, getting the responses back to them quickly so that we'll be able to receive the other 50% of the grant funding. I want to acknowledge Susan Rollins, the Executive Director of the St. Louis County Housing Authority, will be retiring at the end of this year. And I want to congratulate her on I think she's been a fantastic leader for the Housing Authority. Olivet has a housing authority buildings within the city. So we have quarterly meetings, and housing authorities are very complex governmental entities. And I think Susan has done a really remarkable job leading the agency. So, and wish her well in her years of retirement. And good news, the fire engine that was ordered, you may recall that was in last year's capital. We got it ordered, we moved it into this year. Well, it should be delivered. It's on-time delivery now for next year. It still has a number of months to go before we'll see it here, but it is on order. It's one of those things that it takes about a year, 10 months to 12 months to actually get a fire engine. And so once you order it, you kind of have to keep reminding yourself that it's coming. Again, I want to update people on the second annual Cops for Pets program. We're accepting donations of food and supplies that we can then give to the St. Louis County Animal Care and Control. This is, as it says, this is the second year we've done it. We do have a collection bin in the vestibule, so you don't have to come into the building. You can the front doors are open. You can drop your donation off in the vestibule and then take off. So it is a safe way to do the delivery. The vestibule is glass, so you can see if there's somebody in there and you can wait. So we do encourage people to donate to this really worthy cause. And we have the holiday lights I wanted to remind people of, where you can sign up and tell us what your decorations are going to be on your house, and we'll create a map, and then people can drive around and look for very fun decorations. So you can pile in the car with the people you've been sitting at home with and check out the lights. Upcoming meetings, tomorrow night, we have a Park and Recreation Commission meeting at 7 p.m. We have a Planning and Community Development meeting on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Just so the council is aware, we will be going over the new community center design with the Planning Commission. That'll be their first look at that design. As council is aware, we're now in development design, so we're not in final design yet, but we are getting closer to final design. We should hit final design if we stay on target in February. Offices will be closed December 25th and January 1st. We are running a very kind of skeleton crew right now. Folks who are able to work from home, we are encouraging them to work from home. So that we can limit the number of people in the offices. Do remain closed to residents unless you have an appointment. We have numbers that you can call. Our building department is still going out doing construction inspections. So we are still doing a lot of work here, but we are really trying to limit the contact between people. So we've thus far during COVID, we've really been doing a great job of keeping staff healthy, and we just want to kind of end this period of time in the same good work that we've been doing. City Council, their next work session will be January 5th. It's our first meeting of 2021. It'll be at 7 p.m. It will also be via Zoom. All the meetings will be via Zoom. And then another Planning Commission meeting on January 7th at 7 p.m. And with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, does anyone have a question for the city manager? No one? Please let the record reflect that Maxine Weil has joined council meeting. All right, if no one has any questions for her, we can move on to the next item.
Item number 4, city council reports.
I will start with Councilmember Carl.
November 30th, I attended a Board of Adjustment meeting that was a result of a previous meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to come up with the findings of fact and conclusions of law for 508 Warson. To wrap up that meeting, that is a document that needs to be produced. At the meeting on November 30th, a motion was made to go into closed session to have a client attorney discussion, which took place upon returning from closed session. The board held a vote to reconsider their decision, which was for the property owner at 508 Warson, which upheld the issuing of the permit. Excuse me. Upon reconsideration, the board voted to deny the permit due to information they had received in closed session regarding the law. And so consequently, that decision has been reversed and a finding of fact and conclusions of law for the new decision will be produced. It was already agreed to that night. There was a version available with that vote for them to review. They had it a few days in advance to review. And so we're at the same spot we would have been, I guess is my point. It didn't delay anything, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the decision has changed. So that was a bit complicated. Perhaps I didn't explain it very well. If there's any questions, please ask.
Are there any questions for Councilmember Carl? Okay.
That's it. That's my only meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Weil.
I reported last time about going to the Parks meeting, and tomorrow night we have our last Parks meeting of the year, so. I
Okay,
think
great.
7 o'clock tomorrow.
Councilmember Waldman.
I also did not attend a meeting since the last meeting on a PCDC, but I will note that this Thursday I will be attending the Olivet Creve Coeur Chamber virtual holiday party. And Greg, I just want to follow up with you to understand that that issue will not be coming to the Planning and Community Design Commission, correct?
No, the decision ultimately is now that it must go to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, that is a yes. Okay.
However,
great,
if I might,
thanks.
however, that would be,
Please.
that's up to the property owner.
Well, yeah,
Ah.
that is true. Yes.
Okay, I gotcha.
Decision
Okay,
was that the proper process is that it goes to the Planning and Community Design Commission for site plan review. That was the real crux of the issue, whether or not it did or didn't go. And the ultimate outcome of the final decision is that it must go if it comes back to the city.
if it is so chosen by the landowner. Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for that clarification, Ms. Sondag. That's all I have to report.
All right, thank you very much. Chairman Pro Tem Clark.
I have not attended any meetings since the last press release that I attended with Chief Wolf.
Press releases now, huh? Wow, big time. All right. That's it. Okay. As far as my attendance, I have not attended any formal meetings. I do continue to attend the park meetings and some subcommittee meetings of that. And like Councilmember Waldman, in addition, I will also be attending the Olivet Creve Coeur Chamber Holiday Luncheon, and where I'm going to swear in the new board for them. And I don't know who that will be, but I'm looking forward to meeting those individuals. And with that, we can move on to the next item.
Item number 5, monthly financial report, November 2020.
Mr.
Good
Mann,
evening, everyone. We'll have talking about our year to date, which is November, in this case, which is 5 months of our fiscal year. I don't have a whole lot to say. There's a lot of people tonight, and I somehow doubt they're here to listen to me talk about a monthly financial report. But in any case, the revenues in the general fund ended the period 82,000 above expectations, and then expenditures were 57,000 below expectations in the general fund up to this, for a net favorable balance of 139,000. We can see in our dashboard there, we're about halfway, approaching halfway through the year, and our percents of budget are right on pace in a lot of our funds. 8% per month calculates really close to in a lot of those. If I want to remind folks that debt service and construction fund and the pension fund, which are the second and third from the bottom, those are funded by property taxes. So we'll just see those start to come in December, which is why they're behind. And so if we move on to the next page, the reserve policy there at the top, we can see we're well within, we thought we would be about $2 million in excess of the reserve policy, which is 50% of this year's budgeted expenditures, and we're within in compliance at 2.1 million. The only thing I'll say here on just in general, some of these revenues, the revenues overall are, I would say, in those remainder categories, which is outside of those major three, are showing weaknesses across the board. A lot of the stuff is a little bit to be expected, but the sales tax category, which is the 1% sales tax, remains above expectations, and that continues to prop up shortfalls in almost all those other categories. So that's good news there. Property taxes, like I just said, we'll start to collect those. It looks like everything's going to be fine with that compared to budget based on those billings. And then I would remind folks kind of some stuff coming up besides the fact expenditures also toward the end of the month are very close to those expectations. I don't see anything outlying there. 3 things we'll see coming up. Is that final paragraph in the revenue there kind of sums up what I'd say is the outside of like the first 5-6 months, nothing was telling us that where this pandemic, kind of the shutdowns were going to be. There was almost no weakness projected past December. So if we do see some of that softness, we could see some of these things kind of fade out as far as those positive variance assessments, and we'll keep an eye on. But that was one thing that we went through. We did project some softness, some not good revenues toward this year. So it's not surprising that we're above expectations. And as I said, we're still failing on some of those despite that. But we will see our NID collections coming through. We can see just a couple here, and that's for those 2 NID funds, which is North Price and then Dealman Industrial NID. And then our pension payment, of course. Once those property taxes are about half collected toward the end of December, we do forward the funds that we have then to the pension trust. It's about $250,000 to $300,000. Outside of that, I don't have anything, but I would be more than happy. I guess let's go one more page and we can look at our chart. That does show for sure where those sales taxes kind of are. We're the orange line at the top. That's our FY 21 that we're in right now, and you can see that these are the best months we've had in any of these given months, beginning in September, even through November, and then December kind of stays the same way. That's very good, and we are sharing. I just did the math today with our December receipt. We're sharing about 43% of that revenue, so things have been very good within the city of Olivet, and that proves to help out the rest of the county in this time when their per capita is not doing as well. So we're doing well. We're also doing well too. Yeah, go ahead.
Dan, what caused that big orange spike? What was it that caused it to spike like that?
There was some sporadic returns, so some of that stuff that July is really, really low. Well, it's like the paperwork, and again, I'm not sure if it happens at the county level, or not the county, at the state level, or at that actual retailer, but some of those things were behind. And so we saw everything either got processed or got turned in August, and then we received it in September. That's part of it. One of them is, just our retailer mix. Some of the folks that were kind of I think it kind of goes back a couple months. There was some pent up demand in some of our retail, in some of our categories, or some of our retailers. There was some pent up demand. They weren't sure what was going to happen through April and May. And I think everybody, just like us, we kind of got used. We went back to a little bit of a normal, a new normal, and then they spent some money, and then we see that, and that's kind of. I think you can see that in the consumption numbers throughout broader economic cycles as well. But I wish I could share the individual amounts. We're not really allowed to talk about the individual retailers there. But the it all makes sense in a broader economic sense of what we saw throughout the nation, I think, with some of that spending. But I hope that answers the question without being too specific on it.
Aaron, if I
I'm
could follow
good.
up on Sydney's question, if he's done.
Hmm?
Did we not have some tax rates that changed because of the way they did business? So the tax rate of the business was different, and yet it was also providing higher revenues back to the city because of that?
I don't recall any tax rate changes necessarily. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
Or
I don't know if I'm saying the right terminology, but if you're an indoor restaurant, there's a rate, but then if you're dealing with outdoor, were there not different rates for those types of retail, or no?
no, that's I did say that, but that is not true. And so only take what I say with a grain of salt. We did learn a lot through some of these processes of we learned a lot. I guess I would say I learned a lot by going through these processes with our redevelopments. And so the folks at PGAV,
Okay, that's good.
in
Okay,
those
you
discussions, I
clarified
did
it
learn
for
that.
me.
So that is not true. So that it was some of those things that I had said. It's really great to show local support for those restaurants, and they were shown a lot of support.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Mann? I have just a general question, kind of thinking forward. I know that, you're going to begin the budget process by February, March, the latest, correct? And
Yep. We do some preliminary stuff. It's a quick fact. Everything has to be the city manager has to present a preliminary budget by the end of 60 or 90 days before the end of the year. So yes, it will start soon. I actually thought about it just today.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it too. And I know that the council has a good number of extra meetings every month about that. And I want to kind of think forward about that in terms of making sure that we plan that out so that we can get that on people's calendars and that kind of thing. Sometimes we even plan a retreat, obviously Zoom retreat, or whatever, and that becomes some part of the conversation too. So I just kind of want to put that out there so we can start thinking about it.
Sure. And I think you have started as a group, you have started this process with those council goals that were done, I think adopted in July, if I'm not mistaken.
During the last,
that's a big step toward. Go ahead.
I was just going to say during the last budget season, that's kind of when COVID hit was right in March, and we had started it. It was a much more delayed schedule for a variety of reasons. One, just because of the uncertainty of how to do budgeting. So I think we will be looking at that. And we will be starting again this year. We're looking at the goals, starting with the council goals that kind of got delayed last year. The other thing to let the council know is when we passed this current year budget, the FY21 budget, we did discuss reviews in November of looking at kind of where we were on a variety of things. I kind of brought up a couple of matters that we've looked at, I think, over the last 2 months or so. In January, I anticipate that we will be bringing a couple of budget adjustments to the council, and nothing big or negative by any means. But just something that we will be, so that kind of actually, the budget adjustments will probably actually be kind of a kickoff to that FY22 budget.
All right. And I'd like to kind of think forward too, and, maybe put this on the agenda for the
Mhm.
January meeting to talk about our all-day council retreat. However we want to do that, if we want it to be early so that we can get the sessions in there and get things kicked off. If you need our goals and we want to readjust them in order to do your, to kind of dovetail into your budgeting, then probably earlier versus later would be best. So just some
I
thought.
sure appreciate that, because that does make it a lot easier. If we know
Yeah.
intentions and where we would like to go, that makes it a lot easier. So,
Okay,
good.
right, just a thought. Okay, so are there any other questions for Mr. Mann? All right, we are going to, before we move on, I would ask if the council would consider moving agenda item number 11, which is the Parks and Community Center project update, to item number 7. So move 11 to 7. Is there anyone that would be opposed to doing that?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, so we're going to move to item number 6 in a moment, but then we're going to move 11 to 7 and then move, and then go down from there. So item number 6, Denise, do you want to?
Item number 6, hearing from citizens.
So I know there are a lot of good number of people here tonight that may wish to speak at hearing from citizens, but I am going to break with our normal tradition. Generally speaking, we don't have anyone speak before we vote on an issue, but tonight I'm going to make a change, and before we discuss item number, well, it'll now be item number 11. Before we discuss item number 11, which is Resolution 2020-202, I will open it up for public comments. So if your comments are regarding that item, I'm going to ask that you wait until we get to that point and then speak before the council. But if you have other items totally unrelated to that item that you wish to address with the council, then now would be the time to do that. If you wish to address the council now on other items, please raise your hand. The city manager can unmute you, and then you can speak directly to the chair. If you wish to ask your question in the chat, you may do so, or as a Q&A, whichever you would prefer. But I am going to respectfully ask that you wait until item number 11, if that is what you are wishing to discuss. In addition to which, I would like to lay out some of the rules. And when you are unmuted, kindly state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And since we are in election season, there is no electioneering permitted at this particular juncture in our meeting. Okay, I see one hand up. Barb, do you want to unmute?
Bill Hanson, you can just unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, my name is Bill Hanson, 817 North Price Road. My question is about, and I don't know if we get it right, 2020-201, the authorization for the contract with ESRI. Reading through it, I noticed that there is a requirement for the city to have a server and purchase mobile devices and GPS devices. I didn't see the cost for those in the contract. Have we determined those, and including the support for the server? I'm sorry, that was my question.
I apologize. I can answer that, Mayor, if you like.
Yes,
We do, we have those in a separate budget, and we've already actually purchased the server that we would be using. Have we purchased that already, Darren, or is that in, or are we repurposing?
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a misnomer there, and we are getting kind of to the bottom of it. But it sounds like it can be an existing PC, like even just one that they need to hop on real quick to use. And then the mobile devices are, for the most part, they're repurposed devices. A lot of them actually are offshoots from. We have a lot of small devices in our fire truck and ambulance and stuff. And after about 2 or 3 years, they roll off, and we get extras. The other people, we get a good supply from council members. Those ones that are coming off of there, they're really nice, and they do last a long time, but they're a little bit better for going out into the field. It's a little bit easier to let an old hand-me-down go out into the field with the inspector than it is a brand new, several $1,000 device. But that is a good question, and
Yeah, the purpose of it being in the contract is so that if we don't have equipment that's at where it needs to be to operate the software, we can't come back and say, well, you never told us we needed this level of this type of device. But we do have them, and we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move you back then.
I think it's fair to say that the city repurposes and hands down as much equipment as it possibly can, whether it's cars that go from the police department to the public works, to the parks department. It's all the hand-me-downs. Our devices will go from us to whomever. We use them until the wheels fall off here, generally
we
speaking.
take good care of our stuff, though.
Yes.
And then so that it's useful for someone else.
Right. But we do use them till the wheels fall off.
And then I will note, Mayor, if I may, that at that point, then typically on a big item like some fire equipment that we are no longer going to use, we donate to small fire districts and things like that. So even then, it doesn't go.
It doesn't go to waste.
Yes.
Right. All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on any other item? Okay. Then we are going to move on to what is now the new number 7, Park and Community Center Project Review. And this is really exciting.
Okay, I'm going to promote Beverly Tucker Knight to a panelist. I apologize, I left my glasses in my office, so I'm having a little trouble. Okay, do you mind? Thank you. It used to be I could just fake it through the meeting without being able to see it all, but now it's I can't do it anymore. Thank you, Beverly. As I said, Beverly is our Park and Rec director, and as the council and most of the residents, I believe, are aware, we've been we had a $16.4 million bond that was approved by the residents to do improvements within our parks and to build a new community center. The community center, we've had it at the council meetings a couple times. I said earlier at the meeting, in this meeting, that it's going to be at the Planning Commission meeting this Thursday. We'll be looking at it. And it's been at the Park and Recs Commission a number of times as well. So tonight we're going to be focusing on or looking more at our parks. We're still there's a number of stages within any kind of plan. And we're really still in the conceptual design phase, as it says here. And so what that means is we're kind of looking at our parks and saying, we think this would work here, or this would work here. And what we're really trying to figure out, we're taking that information from the Parks Master Plan, and we're figuring out kind of where things should be and what will fit. Okay, because we don't want to, while we have items that we'll be installing and building over the next 2 years or a year and a half, we also have vision items. It was a 10-year Parks Master Plan, so we have vision items. But thank you so much. But we want to know now in our conceptual plan, we don't want to find out when we go to put in a vision item, well, that it's not going to fit in the park, that we thought it was going to work. So what you're going to see tonight is kind of the parks as they complete that parks master plan. We will be, and I'm going to let this be known right now, we'll be having a public meeting last week of January, first week of February, where we're going to go get input again from the residents on, show them the community center, get some feedback on that, show them these parks, these conceptual plans. And at that time, we'll be able to delineate between, what's going to be happening within this next construction season or within the next, 12 to 18 months, and what might be further down the road. So with that, Beverly and I are going to kind of team tag this, or so that we can get through it without being going into too much detail. Because again, you will have another bite at the apple, and the Parks Commission will also be going over these tomorrow night too, if you just can't get enough. This is Worson Park, and this is where the community center currently is. This is probably what we've called kind of one of our biggest park and probably our most underutilized park. And just to show here, this would be the new community center. The entrance would be off of Worson, and that was just to meet one of the goals of getting some of that traffic off of Grandview. We still have parking over here because we have play area and athletic fields, et cetera. So I'm going to take us in a little bit, and a couple of things here. And Beverly, I'll let you do the next slide if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. As the council aware and the citizens are aware, we are working with Great Rivers Greenway on the Centennial Greenway. And that is an extension of the Greenway from I-170 through Olivet all the way to Worson Road. Because of our park improvements, and because the first half from 170 to Dealman requires the acquisition of some railroad property, they're actually starting on the west end first. And this is the Centennial Greenway that will be coming through Worson Park. So we have the community center here. This will be a new parking area. We'll continue with the existing area. We're showing a dog park over here. One of the benefits of having this park over here is that the St. Louis County Animal Control, they utilize Worson Park now to walk the dogs that they have. And so we anticipate this being a vision item that we do in conjunction with the county, and hopefully maybe with another corporate sponsor like Purina. And so what we are doing with this is an event field, and this is a field we already have. You can do some practices there. We probably wouldn't be doing any games over here. It's a little bit uneven. But when we're in the construction of our community center, because they come so close to each other and they impact the stormwater and they impact the alignment of work, we will actually be, our project manager, Navigate Building Solutions, will be the project manager on this. And our contractor that we use to construct this area will be the same. So we're really going to take over the development of the Centennial Greenway from the top of the park all the way through. And you'll see later in the agenda, that's actually an agenda item for an agreement for us to do that in partnership with the Great Rivers Greenway. It was really a phenomenal opportunity to get it the way we want. The Greenway now comes further from the community center than it had initially. So it's going to have a very nice view. We're going to wrap into kind of from here, the existing trail in Worson Park so that it connects, so people can down at the southern end of the park can come and get on the Greenway. And then this is a future community gardens up here. which we think will be a really nice place for people to do gardening, as well as kind of a nice vista for people to look at.
Great, thank you, Barb. So this is the southern end of Worson Park, and this is probably what most people are familiar with in the park if you've come to the community center. Many people that come to the community center don't realize that there's actually 17 acres there. So a lot of people are familiar with just this southern part. So in this area, first thing we're going to be doing is expanding the play opportunities here. So we'll have a splash pad that goes in next to the existing playground. We'll also, as a vision item, have a basketball court in there. And another large thing we're doing is, in order to construct the greenway up by the community center, we're relocating the park maintenance facility. Right now, the park crews use an old residential house for their storage of all of their equipment and tools and supplies. So now that will be relocated down to the southern end of the park, and they'll actually have a real workshop, a real warehouse for storage and appropriate debris containers and things like that. So that's actually a great improvement in operations for the parks crew as well. It also keeps the city presence down in that southern end of the park. The parking will be reconfigured so that it's easier to come in and out of there. And we'll be retaining a lot, actually throughout all of Worson Park and all the other parks, retaining the mature trees. So for example, you'll see there's a large green circle there. That's our gorgeous bald cypress that we're retaining as part of this plan. And the gardens that go around it will complement that. And then the existing community center will be torn down when the new community center reopens. And that site that's flat there's a vision item for us to have restrooms and a shade structure there for people to use. Then they're coming to the playground. But the actual playground itself will stay in its same position. The swings will stay there. And then the final big feature that we have here is we have the original walking trail, which you see runs down the western edge of the park there. And for those of you familiar with the park, you know that actually gets pretty steep. The further north you go, the steeper that trail gets. So one of the commitments we made in the park master plan is to have a circular walking path in all of our parks. Walking paths were one of the #1 amenities that our residents requested. So you'll see it's kind of a shape like a D, this new white pathway in there, and that is an ADA accessible path that takes you around the existing athletic fields and then ties into the Great Rivers Greenway. And it also gets you to the community center. So if you are using a walker, pushing a stroller, or you have kids on bikes with training wheels, or you just prefer to walk in a more level pathway, that's going to be a wonderful way for you to tour through the park and then connect in with the Greenway. So this is a beautiful plan, and we're very excited. This keeps some amenities for the neighborhood, and then it also opens up the rest of the park.
This is Indian Meadows Park, and a lot of people, this is kind of a hidden park for a lot of people because it doesn't have some real kind of market entrances. It actually comes from, this is Dealman Road here. It starts here at Dealman, and it goes all the way. This is where the Worson Park starts. And what you're going to see in this is as I said, the Centennial Greenway will come from the section that they're doing now is from Dealman to Worson Road. And this is the Centennial Greenway now that we'll be wrapping through this, that we'll be doing this kind of again in conjunction with our park improvements. And then a lot of what we're focused on will be kind of in this area, but I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at here. One of the things that's we don't pay a lot of attention to or give a lot of attention is that the River des Peres really starts up here and by the Worson Park. And so having the Centennial Trail, Centennial Greenway kind of going here behind these homes will really allow us to do some additional signage, et cetera, that can really talk about the River de Pear. It becomes, along this way, the River de Pear, it's kind of, it's the concrete, but up here, it's still kind of just running natural. And so this is going to take quite a bit of work to get this, the greenway in here. But if you all saw the public meeting with the greenway that was just last month, I think they have some really excellent designs for how that's going to look. I think it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. We're going to keep the existing playground, and we're going to keep the existing pavilion where it is now. And then here we're going to do a little bit more of kind of native plantings along here during this skinny strip here, and we're going to try to keep as many trees as possible along the back of these neighbors. There is already a little trail that we have here, but the Centennial Greenway will actually be bigger and have a few more amenities than what we have now.
Okay. Is it possible to zoom in a teeny bit on this, Barb? Do you think you could? Oh, perfect. Okay. Whoop. There we go. Okay, so in this park, when we did our public meetings, we had a lot of requests from people to increase the amenities in the park here. Historically, there used to be a few more play structures and things in here, so we really listened to what the residents were requesting. So what you'll find here, along the Centennial Greenway, there'll be some exercise workstations throughout the park, and then there'll be these softer pathways that come around that connect back and forth, so that when you walk in the park, you don't have to be on the greenway. You can walk on these slower, more circular pathways as well. So we'll be adding a playground here. We'll be doing some off-street parking there, because as this is where Grandview and Huron merge, and there's a little bit of a curve. So to avoid having cars interact with cars and pedestrians interact with people that are coming into park, and to prevent people parking in front of people's homes, we're going to put some front end parking just in the beginning there. And then we'll have, as a vision item, we'll have some sculptures in there. And we'll also, as not part of a vision, but one of the first things we'll be doing is we're going to be putting a nature water play element there. So there's going to be a way for kids to interact with water adjacent to the playground. There'll also be a small shade structure there, so that if it is a hot day and you want to sit and watch your kids playing in the playground, or have a little lunch or snack afterwards, there's going to be a shaded seating area. And then in the center, there's a little bit of what the landscape architects call council circle. So it's a circular seating area in there. So when we have activities, if we have the movie in the park or the other things, there's a place for people can kind of gather and chat or visit in adjacent to that. And then we'll also be retaining all those beautiful trees in there. This is actually, if you haven't been to Indian Meadows Park, this is a gorgeous park. In the springtime, it is just amazing to walk through there. There's flowering trees and a lot of substantial sized trees throughout this section. So it's just beautiful. We're retaining that event lawn there. And then these shaded areas on that curve, we're going to be putting in, as part of the Great Rivers Greenway project, some bioretention basins planted with native plants, and that will really help drain that excessive water that collects in there. This is the former site of the River de Pear before it was put in the channel. So we have a lot of water very close to the surface in this park. And for those of you that live near Indian Meadows Park, you know that in the summertime, if we've had a lot of rain, we aren't able to mow out there. So this will really help drain that area. It'll help get the water back into the River de Pear where it really wants to go, and prevent a lot of the standing water that goes on in there. So that's a very exciting improvement for the park. It's not as sexy to do these infrastructure parts, but it's really important, and it gives everybody a much better experience when they're using the park. And then the Greenway will go up and around and wrap up, and to take it kind of further away from the house. There's a house on the end of the cul-de-sac there. So the Greenway is really doing a big circle around that home and then coming back out onto the street before it crosses Dealman Road.
make this a little smaller so you can see this whole rendering, and then we will go cut it into the different areas. This is Stacy Park. Stacy Park, currently we have a prairie here. It's one of the restoration of the prairie is one of in Beverly's top 10 things that she's done since she's been here. It's amazing to see. We have regular burns now. Prior to that, it would just get cut down. And so what we're going to see here is an extension of the prairie. But anyway, just to orient people, there's also a little bit of a water feature that is currently over there. This is the reservoir, St. Louis City drinking water reservoir, and then the rest of the area. So that's kind of what the layout of the park. I'll talk. I keep taking the easy ones, so Beverly gets the tough ones. As I said, this will be continue to be natural prairie. What's really nice here, though, is that they're looking at doing some kind of mowed areas so that people can actually walk through the prairie and really enjoy it. There'll be wayfinding in there to show people natural, kind of what to be looking for, what are the plants to be looking for. If you've been to Danforth Center and to the front where their prairie is, they just do a wonderful job with the signage there. And so we're going to hope to mimic that in some way. We currently have a water feature here. I think we're going to look to improve it a little bit. It's in pretty good shape, but it needs just a little bit of love and attention. Currently we have a path that goes down there. And what we've heard from people, again, particularly in all our parks, they wanted walking paths. And so what we've done is we've made some kind of meandering walkways here. So they're not all going to be the same. They're not going to be asphalt. They won't all be concrete. They'll be different things. We are looking at having some parking here. Again, this is not going to happen right away because we'll have to work with both the county and with Creve Coeur on trying to get a little parking spot here so that people who just want to kind of walk can come and do that. This is probably, this area today is probably the biggest area for dog walkers. And a lot of times they're off leash. We get a lot of calls about that. So we decided, why fight it? That's where people want to walk their dogs. So we've put a vision item for another dog park up here. We're going back and forth on what that might look like, but we have a lot of time to figure that out. You also see one of the things that we'd like here is a restroom. Currently, the only restroom is up by the existing pavilion. And so it's kind of a far trek for people if they're at the athletic fields or if they're just kind of just want to do a walk in the prairie.
Great, thanks, Barb. So this is probably the most heavily used part of the park. So a lot of people are very familiar with the pavilion and with the walking trails here. So I'm going to start at the west end of the park and then move to the east end of the park. So on the west end of the park, one of the things you'll notice right away is the new nature trail that meanders through the woodland. So that was built by volunteers over the summer, and it is getting a large number of walkers on it every day now. This is a wonderful section in there. We're going to keep that. And then we will continue over time to remove the honeysuckle in there and replace it with native plants. So that's a very long-term project because you can tell that's actually several acres in there that it's going to take a lot of careful time to get that honeysuckle out of there without causing more erosion. And then we have our athletic fields. What's exciting about Stacy Park is this is an incredibly large amount of playing fields, and it's able to accommodate multiple soccer fields, 2 baseball fields, where you notice that we're reorienting the baseball fields. We are taking away the third field that oftentimes is covered with grass because it's not used. So we're not going to fight nature anymore. We're going to take that out and then better orient the 2 remaining ball fields. This will make it more accessible. It'll also allow more more games to play at the same time and be less likely to have foul balls different places. So it's a much better design. We're also, you'll see in the middle, there's a big circular section. And if you walk in Stacy Park on Friday nights or Saturdays, you see a lot of people playing cricket. Cricket is a large growth sport in the St. Louis area. So we are going to be putting in a cricket pitch. And to do that, it doesn't take much. It just needs a big grassy area. So right now, the people that play are kind of clustered over on the ball field. And this will actually allow them to use the center part of the field and have a much better experience. You'll notice the walking trails still circle there. And as we start to move into the middle of the park, you'll notice that the walking trails are increasing. So Barb, if you could move to the front of the park, there we go. Okay, terrific. One of the primary goals and drivers we had in looking at Stacy Park is to improve the pedestrian experience. This is our most used park. So many people come here to walk every day, which is wonderful. It's been an amazing thing that we've been able to keep it open, and people have really been following the rules about walking during the pandemic. It's been such an amazing thing to have. One of the drawbacks we have currently is that there is a lot of interaction between cars and pedestrians. When people are walking on the pathway right now, in order to circle the park, you have to cross the driveway into the park. So at any time, there can be cars coming in and out of the park, and kids on bicycles, walkers, joggers, adults riding their bikes. It's just a very unsafe situation. So what you notice is that we've removed that curve of pathway that goes around that northwest section of this northeast section of this parking lot. That is to eliminate any forcing of the trail across that driveway entrance. The other thing we've done, if you have visited the park with young children in a stroller or people that have limited mobility, there is no way currently to get from the parking lot to the playground. The paths just don't go there. So we have a massive expanse of lawn, and you have to walk all the way around the walking trail or go all the way around the pavilion to get there. So this formalizes pedestrian crosswalks in the parking lot, and then it feeds those crosswalks directly onto pathways to assist people to get to the pavilion or get to the play areas. The other thing we hear about a lot from people that use the pavilion is that there isn't a way to get your cupcakes or your barbecue to the pavilion because it is such a long haul. And a lot of people like to drive their cars straight up to the pavilion. And having park users drive their cars onto park sidewalks just is not a good idea. So by relocating the pavilion and having the rear side of the pavilion back up into the parking lot, this is going to allow people that are having picnics or need to bring food in or have someone who is in a wheelchair or has limited mobility, they'll be able to get to that pavilion much easier. So we're very excited about that design. That is really going to improve the park's experience there. It's also going to have a little front patio in front of the pavilion too. So it sort of looks like a little acorn. So the covered portion of the pavilion is the acorn cap, and then the patio in front of the pavilion is the seed part. So that will allow a little bit of separation between the people that are using the pavilion and other park users, so that you can have people playing in the playground or using the pavilion and neither one feels like they're right on top of the other. So it gives people a little bit of space. And then on the site of the former pavilion, when the old pavilion is taken down, we will put in a basketball court. So that's one of the other things that we hear from a lot of people. We have that little half court over there, and that is used almost every day. It's very popular, but it's only a half court. So this allows us to have a full court. People can come in and out. When people rent the pavilion, oftentimes they say, is there basketball? Can we play basketball? Yes, of course you can. So now we will keep that half court there as overflow, and then we'll have the large court. So that is, I think I've covered everything. Oh, and we know a lot of people are going to ask, what is the distance? Because that's one of our number one calls to the recreation office. How far is it around Stacy Park? Currently, it's 0.9 miles if you do all of the routes. in this new plan, there's an actual circle around those ball fields now that's half a mile. So 2 loops around that gives you a mile. And then if you walk all the paths in the park, you get to a mile now. So that's pretty exciting. So,
Wait,
oh, here we have a close-up shot, so you can see that's the half mile there.
Right.
You want to go back to that?
Yeah, here.
Next
Or go
slide. Go back one slide. Go back one slide. There it is. Okay, so that's a
Alright,
half
sorry.
mile now. Yep, half mile loop. So that's pretty exciting. And then the next slide kind of shows different configurations of the Stacy Fields.
can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Mhm.
So how do you envision Turkey Trot working in this new situation?
I think it'll
Oh,
work the same way that it does now. Absolutely. That pavilion, the
Yeah,
plans call for the pavilion to be 250 people, which is what our current pavilion does right now. We still have that beautiful lawn behind the play area that can be, as the Turkey Trot increases and we get more and more people there, we can use that area back there. But the start and the finish can be in exactly the same spot. And for the Turkey, we can absolutely still park on those lawns because it's the Turkey.
and we'll continue to have this separate exit. We're keeping that as
Okay.
a separate exit for.
I mean, because we're
different
going to
things. So
line up.
really-
I mean, stop and think about it. We're going to line up, last time we lined up almost 1,700 people.
Yes, absolutely.
We
Yeah.
need to
Right.
be able to have.
That's not
that.
gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
that'll all be the same. Because
Yeah,
the entrance, while it shifts a little bit, or not even that much, it's still the same size of an entrance.
Yes.
So it's not gonna, so it'll work fine.
And they'll be able to
Right.
put the start and the finish line.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, it'll be nicer because the pavilion is gonna be closer to the road.
Okay. I mean, I
Yes.
know we only do it once a year, but it's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, absolutely. And we talk about that as we go through that. The other thing that's nice is that that basketball court will be another surface for Turkey Trot. So
Right.
that's a nice staging area too.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if I
Sure.
could ask a question, since we're on that parking lot area at Stacy Park,
Uh-huh.
it's identifying that it'll have 163 parking spaces. Or if you don't know, that's fine, but I'm gonna ask, what's the number of parking spaces we have now at Stacy Park?
I believe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's less than this.
Yes,
This
less
is-
than that. This is an
This
increase.
is the maximum parking we could really put in there.
Right. And this
Okay.
parking is a little bit of a vision too, because once we still don't have the final numbers of, because asphalt ranges in price, it can skew violently, dramatically throughout the year. So until we actually go, we may have to pave part of it and have the other part of it be a vision and do that in pieces.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go on, as I know we have things to do. This is Herbside. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger to see if I can. So Herbside, here's Old Bonham. And one of the things that we really have done, we're doing a lot of work on here. We are keeping the existing pavilion and the restrooms, although we have funding that we're going to be improving the restrooms now and trying to do some changes. But really what we've really done, we're probably doing a lot of different things here than in some of the other parks. The dog park currently is back here. We're moving it kind of to the front. We're doing a lot more nature trails, a lot more nature play. We're going to be redoing maybe keeping some of the elements of the playground, but really expanding the playground area, doing a water element. One of the things we looked at is kind of if you're a parent and you're coming with kids who want to do different things, where can I stand and I can watch them, watch everybody. We're trying to still keep the open space though, because one of the things we've talked about with Herbside is there's always people just with picnicking on the grounds. And so you don't want to use up all of that green space. This is an exceptional kind of use for this park. We have a lot of water issues here. It really drops off back here as well. And so kind of how this is oriented with some of the other, again, more pathways that kind of that people can walk through. But we're also really trying as much as possible to make sure we have these natural kind of swales and such so that we aren't creating an area that's going to be wet all the time. Beverly, do you want to add to this?
Yes, so one of the things that we're really trying to do is open up this park. This is a park that has an incredibly heavy tree canopy. So you'll notice there are trees on there with yellow circles. So one of the processes we go through in developing this park master plan is we've done an assessment of all of our trees over a specific circumference to see, are they healthy? Are they diseased? Do they have structural problems that mean that they may fall down in a storm? You know, do we have a safe urban forest in our parks, or a safe park forest? So some of these trees have been identified as that may need to be removed. And then some of them we're actually going to watch. We're going to keep an eye on them and do some preventative pruning. So there will be some tree removals in this park, but we also really have kept that nice open avenue as you come in, and that's going to allow food trucks to come in periodically. We do movies in this park, and that's something that people have really asked us for. When they have events in the park, we see a lot more food trucks coming in to serve those private events, and then we also have been increasing their usage with our events too. So that'll be a nice way for them to come into the park instead of park users having to go all the way out to the street to access that. So I think that'll be really nice.
We did do a lot of discussion about, do we add a little parking lot in here somewhere? And after a lot of discussion, we came back to, no, we really need the space for a park. And we can always come back later if that needs to be, and, you know, in the future years. But at this point, we really wanted to keep the park as much, you know, not pave it.
Right.
Right. And we spent a lot of time talking about trees, just in case if anybody really wants to talk about trees, you can come to these meetings. And
or you can call me. You're always welcome to call me.
Always welcome to call Beverly. And then this is, sorry, I have to get it just a little bit smaller to show the whole thing. And then Bev, I can,
Sure.
you can talk about this, and I can move in and out as you.
Okay, sure. So this is Villa Park. So Villa Park and Indian Meadows Parks are two parks that are neighborhood parks. And what that means is that they're smaller parks. So you don't see big athletic competitions happening in these parks because they're smaller neighborhood parks. Villa has an existing parking lot right now, and this plan expands that a little bit. It retains that green buffer, but it expands it a little bit because we're really we want to make sure that park users that are coming in for the pavilion or for the playground aren't parking out on the streets and blocking people's driveways. So this really is a nice way for us to be a good neighbor to the neighborhood. The bones of this park are staying fairly same to where they are now. But one of the big things that we're doing is the walking path will circle the park. So you'll notice there's a new pathway along the eastern edge of the park. So now you can actually walk a full loop, because currently the pathway comes in on the western side and then it just dies in the middle of the park. So you can't walk all the way around the park. The other thing we're going to do is formalize the new neighborhood connection over on the northwest corner of the park. So recently the city acquired some parcels up there. So right now people walk into the park and they have to come up a slight hill, and it's grassy and it can be very muddy in the wintertime. So we're going to formalize that path and make it ADA accessible. So if you're coming in on a walker, pushing someone in a wheelchair or a baby stroller, you'll be able to get into the park much easier. We're not putting any parking up there. We're not putting any signage up there because that's just for those neighbors to come in by foot or by bicycle. We're also keeping a mode area up on the northwest portion. A lot of people that live up in Llewellyn and up on that section walk into the park there. So we're not going to put a formal pathway there, but we're going to mow that area and keep a nice open place for people to come in. The playground's going to stay in the same location. It'll be expanded a little bit. And then we're going to put in a water play area along the edge of the, so that's that gray area, Barb, if you, there you go. There'll be a new water play element there. And the pavilion and the restroom will stay the same, but we are increasing our tree plantings in there. And we're also going to be doing a lot of landscaping along the edges that will improve the edges, particularly that eastern end of the park tends to have a lot of weeds that grow up. It's very hard to maintain. So we're going to re-landscape that in there and make it a lot more, make it more beautiful and also make it easier to maintain over time. So that is Villa Park. Have I missed anything?
I don't think so. This continues to look like a dress. It is our
It
dress.
does.
park.
It looks like a lady's dress. Yes.
Every park
So
was
with,
given a different distinction. As we went through these
Yeah.
plans, each park had its own little nickname, or plan had its own little nickname, and this was the lady's dress. We had a pearl one, we had all kinds. It was fun.
Yeah.
so I don't know if there were any other questions. I'm happy to go back, but kind of wanted to make sure that the council, we've been having trouble with the timing of council meetings and when we've gotten some release to bring the council up to speed and the public up to speed. So we really wanted to take the time today to do that, particularly as we kind of get into 2021, because we're going to quickly, we're going to have public meetings. We're going to move into some of our final design, and then we want to then we'll start construction, hopefully.
Right, right. And so I'd just like to give a quick update on the communication plan for that. So midway through January, we will put, we have a micro website in development that will give everybody detailed information on every park and the phasing and the structures and the community center. We'll be putting up our regular construction updates in there so people will be able to check back to it. But one of the most important things is we're going to be putting these detailed concept plans up there as we advertise those public meetings at the end of the month, at the last week of January, first week of February. So people can really look at them and, get a good idea coming into those meetings so that they can ask questions following the presentations and give us feedback and give us their thoughts. So we will be doing mailers to people about those meetings, and we'll also put up some yard signs to make sure that everybody knows when they are. And we'd like to get some great participation. We had wonderful participation developing those parks master plans. So we really want to have people share with us their thoughts on how we're implementing that master plan. So I'm very excited about that.
Are there any questions about any of this from anybody?
And again, just to remind folks that all of this work, we have the community center, all these parks are happening at the same time as we'll be doing the Centennial Greenway. I just got an email now that there's going to be another public hearing on the Greenway in January as well. So we have a lot of things going on.
With regard, and this is probably a question that people who are listening may have as well, but with regard to scheduling the construction or the work to be done in each of these parks, obviously we're pretty early into some of this process, but can you speak, in generalities about what we may have or not have in terms of being able to do a lot all at once, or is it going to go park by park, or how is that construction going to happen?
Well, things that we know, we'll start with that. We know we'll be starting with Warson Park because we have the community center happening. And once we have the community center, we'll have the Greenway, and that's going to lead naturally to the taking down of the existing community center and the work there. We're also going to have to get the maintenance shed going relatively quickly in its new area, because we will be taking down that house that currently is used as a maintenance shed. We'll be taking that down so that for the Greenway, because that actually goes up on that. So we know what that's going to be happening there. After that, really, it's a little bit unclear as to what may be done where and when. And a lot of the times we can give an idea, and we could ask Navigate and DTLS and KI to help us kind of figure out what that might look like. But a lot of the times you also leave some of that to the contractor, because they know better about the mobilization. They know, what will work best when. And we also don't want all of our parks torn up at one time, because we do want to maintain green space for people to, can you imagine if all our parks had been torn up this year? It would have been horrible. So I can't give you, as we move along the processes, and again, as we move out of conceptual design into the getting closer to the final design, we'll probably get a better sense of that, but we probably won't have a schedule until we get the contractors in place. And that a lot of times it's similar to a road project. We didn't know which end they were going to start on Dealman, if they were going to start on the south or on the north side, because we really want them to take responsibility for that and to think about what's going to work the best for mobilization.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, if there are no further questions.
I just have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to say is I think this shows us working very well in a complicated set of projects with multiple agencies. The Great Rivers Greenway, got private agencies in the sense that coming in the future will be the purchase of the railroad right of way. We've got the parks, unrelated to the Greenway. We've got the parks going on, contractors, and I just think that this is thanks staff that's managing this complex interplay very well. So.
Right. And it will become more complicated because in Indian Meadows, we have the Pioneer sanitary line project that's going to interrupt. And we've already been in communication with MSD on that, on how we can coordinate. And we have in January, my guess is in January, you're going to see a contract with MSD that will allow us to do some of that work so that we have a little bit more control over when it happens and can coordinate it with our parks plan. You'll also know that we've been in contact with the county. You gave the approval for the slope and the temporary easement there so that they're going to do Dealman Road, but we've been in a lot of communication because we're trying to now organize and coordinate that the crossing of Dealman for the Centennial Greenway. And that's taken quite a bit of number of meetings with our public works director, with GRG, and with the county on just trying to get that coordinated. At one point, we ended up where there was like about 4 feet of pathway where everybody was like, well, I'm not sure if that's mine or yours. and it is those, you need to have that coordination or you do end up with those types of things. So I appreciate that. And it really has been quite a bit of really great coordination, I think. And thus far it's been going very well. So knock on wood.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on. Next item, please.
Item number 8, bill number 2942, an ordinance of the city of Olivet, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a cooperation agreement between the city of Olivet and the Metropolitan Park and Recreation.
No.
We missed the
Oh,
business
we're-
license one.
Oh, I thought that went to number 11.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay, sorry.
No, sorry.
Never mind. Bill number 2941, an ordinance of the city of Olivet, Missouri, amending Title VI, Chapter 605 Business Licenses, Section 605.060 through 605.210 by modifying the statement and payment dates for business licenses. Second reading.
As I talked to the council last week, this really just impacts the date of when business owners need to submit their sales tax statements or their statement of prior year sales, as it's called. It gives them a bit more time and it still stays within our fiscal year. I do believe that the January, February dates probably had more to do with our a long time ago, you had a February 28th, I think, budget year. And so our March 1 budget year. So I think it had more to do with that. This makes a lot more sense for business owners.
Are there any questions or any other questions? I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Bill 2941, an ordinance of the city of Olivet, Missouri, amending Title 6, Chapter 605, Business License, Section 605.060 through 605.210 by modifying the statement and payment dates for business licenses.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any final comments or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2941 becomes ordinance number 2714.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Bill number 2942, an ordinance of the City of Olivet, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a cooperation agreement between the City of Olivet and the Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, doing business as the Great Rivers Greenway District, for design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the Centennial Greenway. Second reading.
This is the agreement I referenced earlier when we were talking about the Centennial Greenway. This is the agreement that authorizes the city to take over the responsibilities for project management and construction of the Centennial Greenway through Warson Park. And it also obligates the city to the maintenance of the Greenway, and that is how Great Rivers Greenway works. They will build the greenways or the paths, and then the municipality will take over the maintenance. I was asked last week about the cost of that. It's going to be, if you look at the annual cost, it's probably not going to be more than about $5,000 dollars a year. So we've been aware of that. We are developing kind of a bigger budget, capital kind of improvement budget that we will then incorporate into our capital improvement plan. So you'll see that with the budget year. But typically, the Greenway isn't a high maintenance. It's keeping things clean and keeping things up. Now you will have some repairs, some plantings that we would probably need to do along the way, but we also have a lot of control over what we do put in there.
What about the manpower?
The manpower, in coordination, if we were doing this just on our own, or just on our own, and without doing the work in the other parks as part of the master plan, we would have a lot of trouble doing it. We would have to hire. Given the fact that we are already looking at an additional person, and we're also looking in other parks at ways to reduce the necessary maintenance by going to more native plantings and doing a variety of other things. We think that we'll be able to kind of just move this into a regular operating budget of the Parks Department.
Are there any other questions for the city manager? I think this is going to be a fabulous project. I think this is the fact that it's going to interconnect so many aspects and so many parts of the city and bring to the city that walkability factor that we wanted. It's going to be great. I'm so thankful that they have opted to do this project here. The Greenway is a great organization, and I know their goal is to really provide more interconnection between communities and cities along the way. So I think this is going to be great for the city of Olivet. So I'm very excited about this.
I think that the council made this a goal 2 or 3 years ago. And at that point, we actually didn't think that it was far enough along in the GRG process that it would get, that they would take it up, particularly with the railroad. And then I think when they saw that we started doing, if you recall, we started looking at some CDBG grants, looking at monies of how we could use it to start doing things there. I think that's really when I think it was the action of the council in making this a priority that grabbed their attention, because they want to work with a partner that wants what they're bringing.
I will entertain a motion from the council.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Bill 2942, an ordinance of the City of Olivet, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a cooperation agreement between the City of Olivet and the Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, DBA, the Great Rivers Greenway District, for design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the Centennial Greenway.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Final comments or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed. By action of the Olivet City Council, Bill number 2942 becomes ordinance number 2715.
Thank you. Next item.
Resolution number 2020-201, a resolution authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc. and Pro West and Associates for the provision of geographic information system and support.
This was brought up during public comment. This is the agreement with Esri and Pro West. It is one resolution for two different vendors, and the reason is we really need both those vendors to do the project. Esri, they're who people go to for geographical information systems. They've been around for a long time. They ArcGIS, a lot of people have heard of. I guess I should take a step back. We've started working, our public works director has worked with a GIS system for a while. It's actually a kind of a shareware system, which means it's been free. When we changed our planning department, we added another planner, and we really focused on bringing someone in who would be able to do these mapping skills, who would be able to take information and apply it in the databases, apply it to mapping, so that we are able to visually see data and to make better decisions because of the data we can look at and we can see. So this isn't about pretty maps. This is about really making good decisions with good information. It's one, the example is, you can say, well, what's going on in that house on the corner, or I want to look at all the houses in Olivet that have so much of a setback. And we could probably get that, and we could give you a list, and then you'd have a list. And that gives you one piece of data. But then we could take that information, and in GIS, we can map it. And then what that gives you is it really gives you a sense of where are these things, and you start seeing patterns. So we look at sewer laterals. You can look at, through a map, your sewer laterals, and you can see, are there certain areas where there are more problems? Do you see kind of an increase in a certain area? You can take information like that and you look at it differently and you use it differently. You can also layer information. So you can take, you can look at the permits, and you can look at permits over a certain amount, and you can look at residential versus commercial, and you can look at, and you can see kind of where are housing improvements happening, and why is that? And you can start kind of looking at that. And that's useful information when you're looking at ordinances, when you're looking at making public policy, because it's being able to take information that we have, but actually utilize it in a much, much better way. In January, I have asked Jonathan Roper, who is our Planner GIS coordinator, to come and to do just a brief introduction for the council and for the residents on what this system will be able to do. I had wanted it to happen, but the agenda was a little too full tonight. Wanted to happen tonight, but I know the council has already had, in our budget processes, you've had 2 years in a row now, you've seen demonstrations of this, and you've also seen it as we've been continued to utilize it here in the offices. So Jonathan has been on, Bruce has been working with our current system. And we're now maxing that out. We need to take the next step. If we're serious about continuing to collect data, look at it, utilize it, and again, more importantly, utilize it for good decisions, and utilize it, particularly Jonathan, if you are at a planning commission meeting, you'll see how he utilizes it for stormwater issues. And it's helping shape the decisions that are going to be made at the planning commission about stormwater. And so we need to take the next step. Esri will provide the software that will allow us to do that. ProWest will provide the support, the initial support that we need to quickly get up and going on this. They will assist us with the taking of some of our data and importing it into the Esri system. They will support us as we attempt to do different projects. We've identified, as you saw in their agreement, a list of projects that we're interested in doing. And so we won't have them on board forever. You know, at this point, we have one agreement with them, and that's it. We will have Esri. You can see that's a multiple-year contract. And so I anticipate, you know, after we're done with ProWest, that we will have trained ourselves and we'll be able to use kind of the support through Esri without needing a separate contract for some of that support. So with that, happy to entertain any questions or comments on the two agreements.
Are there questions or comments for the city manager?
I just should remind you that this was also this is one of the very few new projects that the council approved in the FY21 budget.
Okay.
So
this
thank
is
you.
A budget item for us. We knew this was coming. Comments, questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-201, a resolution authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with Environmental Systems Research Institute Incorporated and ProWest and Associates for the provision of geographic information system and support.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Final comments, questions, council?
I just have a comment, Madam Mayor. This is an exciting time. This is an improvement that we've needed for a while. The city manager's gone over those reasons, and I am thrilled to death that this day has come. Thank you, staff and my fellow peers.
All right. If there are no further comments or questions, I will ask, please call the roll.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Absolutely, yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Next item, please.
Resolution number 2020-202, a resolution convening the Tax Increment Financing Commission of the City of Olivet, Missouri, in connection with the proposed Second Amendment to the Gateway I-170 Tax Increment Financing, TIF, redevelopment plan.
Thank you. I also just want to let people know I got a text message from our planner, Jonathan Roper, saying thank you. So he's very excited for the
Text
GIS.
him back and say you're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to tee this up, and then we do have the developer is on, and I'll probably move him to a panelist if the council would like to hear from him. So the resolution before the council is to reconvene or to convene the Tax Increment Financing Commission for the city of Olivet. When we did the Gateway, when we did proposals, RFPs for projects for what we call the Gateway area, we received a number of different proposals, and we came up with, the council chose Key Properties as the preferred developer. We knew going in at that time that it was probably going to be, the developer would probably be requesting a tax increment financing. And actually it's a good property for TIF because it really was blighted. It has a lot of issues. It has been going back to about 1965. It's been in the strategic plans for the city for redevelopment. And so, and it wasn't happening and on its own. So with that, then, after a lot of kind of back and forth and preparation, the city went to convened a TIF commission in 2017. Actually, it was probably convened in 2016 and finished in 2017 for the purpose of looking at the plan at that time. The plan at that time was mainly one-story retail. And so that was what the TIF commission at that time approved. The TIF commission, again, so for people who are not familiar, the city council convenes the TIF commission, but the TIF commission by statute is composed of representatives from various taxing districts. So if this resolution is approved tonight, we will send letters out to the various taxing districts and telling them we're going to convene a TIF commission. Please tell us who you would like to represent you. You have, one person. Some of the taxing districts have more than one. The school district has more than one. The county has more than one. And then the city that's convening has more than one. Others like MSD, some of the other taxing districts could have one representative. And there's 12 people that make up I believe it's 12, isn't it, Paul, that make up the TIF commission. So with that, that's what the TIF commission is. Those names come in, and the council actually then puts those names forward, and that's for the TIF commission. So in some ways, you're convening the TIF commission, you're going to solidify who is on the TIF commission, but by statute, you're also told who has the ability to name their own person to represent that. And the reason for that is that the various taxing districts all have a say in reviewing the plans and reviewing the financials. There'll be a cost benefit analysis that will be done, and a written plan or amended plan that will be also turned into the commission. And so all of that went into play in 2017. The TIF was approved. In 2019, again, it was probably 2018, the TIF commission was reconvened because the developer had a change of use. There are a number of reasons why you may reconvene or why you would need to convene a TIF commission for an amendment. Anytime you're going to amend your plan, you would need to convene the TIF commission. A plan amendment could be a change of use. That's different from what you had originally said. It could be the boundaries change, bigger or smaller. That could require a TIF commission to convene again. So in that case, the TIF commission convenes. It's not necessarily the same people, right? It's the same taxing entities, and it's the same process by which, you send letters out, and they'll tell us who they have chosen to sit on the TIF commission. Some taxing districts opt out; they don't send anyone, and so you kind of take the first 12 you get. And so then In 2018, 2019, it was convened because we had a change of use. The developer added the use of office. Now, in the plan, the developer actually added a hotel along with the retail, but the hotel was actually, could have been done without going back to the TIF commission because it actually wasn't allowed use. But it was office. And so convene the TIF commission to add the use of office. The developer is today coming forward and asking that for an amendment to the redevelopment plan, which would add another use, would be residential. And again, it's because it's that we're adding another use to this plan that we're going back to the TIF commission, that the TIF commission would be convened. The TIF commission, again, will be looking at the plan amendment. What is the plan asking for now? Does it match the strategic plan of the city? Does it match, does it work financially through the cost benefit analysis? And then they will vote. They're actually, these are individuals sitting in different taxing districts. So they're looking at it in general, but they're also looking at it from their own point of view, right? And so that is, if the council approves this resolution, the next step would be that the staff and legal counsel would send out letters to taxing districts to say, we're convening the we're convening a TIF. Please tell us who your representative will be. And then there would be set a date for a first meeting. At that first meeting, the TIF commission would organize, would determine the chair, and would set the hearing for this. In the meantime, they would be looking at the amendment to the plan, looking at the different use. They would be looking at another cost benefit analysis. And then they would be voting and there would be a public hearing, and they would take that. The TIF commission recommends to the council. So the TIF commission doesn't actually approve. They recommend to the council approving or not approving the TIF. And then it comes back to the council. If they approve the TIF, if they recommend approval of the TIF, then it would come back to the council, and the council would be looking at that point in time, looking at the amended plan, an amended redevelopment agreement, because the council would have to go back and amend that redevelopment agreement. And you would also be looking at the cost benefit analysis. And so I thought it was good just to, again, take a step back and say, well, what exactly are we doing here? And what's the process that we're following? With that, I'm going to ask Paul if I missed anything or if I misspoke in any way. We should clear it up now.
I think that was a very, very good summation of where we are and where we'll be going if the resolution is passed.
Barb, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
I had my microphone off, sorry. Would you like me to bring the developer over?
Yes,
To
please.
explain his request?
Yes, please.
There he is. Okay. Greg Gowitz will be coming over. I don't know if Greg has anyone with him. We will find out once he comes on. Do you have anyone with you, Greg, that needs to come over?
I do not.
Okay. And with that, I'm turning it over back to the mayor and to Greg.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Yowitz. I think that it would be in our best interest and the interest of those who are in attendance to hear what you have to say and what you want to tell us. For those who may have joined this meeting late, what I did say was, after this presentation, I will open it up to comments And it will follow the same protocol that we follow with hearing from citizens, name, address, and 3 minutes or less. But I think it's important first that the council hear from Mr. Yowitz and that the audience give him their full attention as well so that we can hear what he has to say. So the floor is yours.
All right, great. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Greg Yowitz, 6 Other Hill Lane. Wanted to give you both an update of where the project is and then talk about the request and sort of the logic behind it. And then answer any questions you have. So as one might imagine, the pandemic and the resultant economy issues and impacts in the economy have slowed us down a little. We'd originally, I think, anticipated breaking ground in late 2018 through the revision of the plan that was going to be pushed a little bit. And with the pandemic we've all been going through, obviously that has been somewhat of a game changer as far as the timetable for us. And yet the project is still going ahead. The project is still going to be an amazing project for our city. And there's still a lot of things that have been going on. And you may have noticed, for those of you that have been out, that there's a lot of construction work going on the site. That work's actually the Metropolitan Sewer District constructing 2 sewer relief laterals, one from the north called the 82nd Street line and one from the south called the Lindley line, which are both intended to alleviate sewer backups throughout Olivet due to capacity issues in MSD's sanitary system. And so those pipes have been installed. They're about, let's say, 95% finished on our site. They'd originally intended to be done by September. Pandemic impacted them. They will hopefully be done on or about the end of the year with all the work on our site. And we're letting the Lindley contractor stage their equipment on our site on the south side for easier access to get to the extension as it runs to the south. And so what this pandemic has done for us is give us time to reflect on what really the best options and the best development are for our city and for this project. And that has evolved to this request that's in front of you tonight to add residential use. And so, tonight I'm going to present the case behind our reason for asking that you reconvene the TIF commission so that we have the ability to present our case for this, which we believe is extremely strong, that creates a more balanced project, a project that is less subject to economic downturn. If we had been all go on the first version of the plan, I don't think things would be going very well for us or for the city relative to tax revenue if this had been an all retail development. And as such, I believe the addition of office and the hotel was very valid. And I believe that adding in residential actually strengthens the project, is good for the city, is good for all the taxing jurisdictions, including Ladue schools, a special school district, and the county and the state, and creates a true win-win environment for everybody. And so thought I'd open with that. And then I've got a PowerPoint that if I can share screen, I am more than happy to do. So I don't know if you have any questions before I show the PowerPoint. All right, well, I will start with that. All right, so if I do, okay. Fabulous little title slide there. All right, so this first slide covers a lot of what I talked about, but I wanted to give a little list of more specifics. Again, for those that may not have been out to see the site because of the pandemic, we have completely cleared the site of all buildings. We have been working with MoDOT and have a permit that we can pick up from the Highway Department for all the planned improvements along Olive, which includes the widening of Olive Boulevard from the middle of Price Crossing all the way to 170, the aforementioned MSD work. We are in final design with Ameren to bury the 34 kilovolt lines, relocate all the poles along Olive and on Price Road. That work is set to begin ballpark July. You mentioned earlier the Centennial Greenway, and we have worked with a design to create in front of the project on Olive connectivity to the Great Rivers Greenway that includes in some parts of the project a 12-foot wide shared bike and pedestrian path. And then on the rest of the frontage, a minimum of 8 feet of sidewalk for pedestrians and for bikers, for bicycles, obviously not motorcycles. We have a permit from MSD ready for pickup to install the sewer trunk line that will deal with the water that's actually not ours, that comes from the west, that runs behind Price Road and is piped underneath Price Road and then comes out to the east. And we're going to pipe that through the site. And our mass grading permits are ready for pickup and due not just to the pandemic, but the timing of the MSD work. That work likely will begin in March as soon as the ground is thawed. And so tonight, what we're talking about, where we're talking about this residential use is on Lot 4. Lot 4, I'll remind you, is an area that we have designated for up to a 4-story, and I believe we have conceptual zoning approval for up to a 4-story, 64-foot tall structure that we originally contemplated as a second office building. What we found in looking at this over time is that with the sensitivities and the issues around the pandemic, that having 2 office buildings in this site is not optimal, we believe, for the project or for its stability. And so as such, we're requesting changing or adding the use of residential to the project. These graphics show for you in the top left corner sort of the area of that Lot 4. Top right, sort of the floor plate. Bottom left, sort of a massing structure, which shows you effectively what the mass of that office building would have been. The bottom right shows the area carved out, which will be the structured parking garage that would be attached to this. Obviously, all of this, assuming that you all approve this tonight, and assuming that it goes through the TIF commission positively, and that the redevelopment agreement has changed, and a whole lot of ifs and a whole lot of other meetings. All of this, of course, would go in front of planning and community design at some later date if all of those things take place. And then these 4 slides show one where we were by inserting the garage in the top left. And really, I think one of the benefits of this use, as far as the structure and massing goes, is that instead of a large monolithic structure where the majority of the entire building is within the permitted, or is up to that 30-foot permitted distance away from the property line, we carve out a very large section to create a U-shaped design. And that takes the majority of the occupied structure to somewhere between 70 and 80 feet. We obviously don't have final designs and everything finalized. It's a little too soon for that. But from what our engineers and architects tell us, the majority of the structure, other than the parking garage, will be upwards of 70 or 80 feet from the property line instead of the currently allowed 30. And so we see that as an improvement as it relates to the aesthetics for our neighbors to the south. What you see here is our architect's rendering of the concept of the front of the structure. This is the north side. To the left of it, you can see sort of in the shadow there, that's the office building that's rendered in. Creating, a toned down, but very walkable, very pedestrian friendly living community for people who will choose to live in apartments that we think will be very attractive in the city of Olivet, not only due to Olivet's being in the center of everything, as our city's tagline goes, but because of the additional amenities that will be in the project, the retail, the shopping. There may be people who live and work within the development, and obviously having the ability to have a hotel for guests. And so, these are going to be very nice apartments. The concepts include things like a yoga studio, a gym. We're looking at a maker studio due to the current sort of do-it-yourself Etsy economy. A small recording room for people who have musical tastes. The building will be pet friendly. It'll feature extremely high-end finish fixtures and amenities, common space for gathering and things that hopefully we can, after we build it, the pandemic will be over and people will be able to do that again. This is a view looking really southwest Again, that's at the center tower element that has the glass in it, and we can show you the balconies and the windows. And we have yet to pick all the final materials and things like that. That of course would occur as we move this thing forward. Should you all vote positively tonight, the TIF commission approve it, the redevelopment agreement get done, and then we would obviously take it to PCDC at some point. This is a view from Price Road. Having the building be pet friendly, we're obviously going to need a dog park. And so, thinking about things like fixtures for the dogs, as well as safety of the dogs and the safety of the people that would be walking on Price Road. Area would be fenced and protected, would be cleaned on a regular basis, kept in a very first class condition. This is a view from Price Road south of the project. I'd say toward the back line of the house on the corner of the north side of Stoneleigh Towers. And the reason I felt like this image was important, our architects took a ton of time 3D rendering this and looking at the GIS imagery that is available to make what they believe is a very photorealistic picture of the tree canopy and tree line that exists today. And they actually thinned it out a little bit from what they think is really there, because I don't want to overstate that you can't see the building. There, at some points you will be able to see the building, but what I think is important here is to show that this is less of a massive structure upon our neighbors by carving out that middle section. And this is a view from, I believe it is 171 or 179 Stoneleigh Towers, the second or third house in, showing again, due to the existing tree line that will remain that is on our neighbor's property. This is not, at least in our opinion, an overbearing structure, as this view is set from a position of being at the back of the house line of the neighbor's property. And so why, in summary, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions, we believe this is a beneficial change to our project is that, as I mentioned, the structure is pulled away. One of the concerns that I heard in the last iteration of our project was a concern about traffic on Price Road. If we had a 120,000 foot office or even office and retail building on this lot, that building would attract an average of about 480 cars a day minimum, in and out, generally in peak times. So massive flows in the morning, massive flows out at night. What we believe this building will take is about 160 apartments, and that will A, greatly reduce the number of cars, and B, greatly spread out the traffic flow, thus reducing the impact on traffic on the surrounding roads. We also, as I mentioned earlier, believe this is a more sustainable project and gives us the ability, even if the market doesn't recover as fast, to begin this portion of the project in the spring. If this is not approved, I honestly can't give you a timeline right now. Retailers are talking. We are obviously looking at a more optimistic future now that the vaccine is being deployed, but there's no finality to that yet. And I would also argue that this is fully in line with Olivet's strategic plan and really creates that dynamic sense of live, work, play space where people can congregate, residents can ride their bikes and walk and shop and eat. And residents that currently live in Olivet can meet new residents that we would think would live in Olivet and would love living in our community, just as I have done for the last 27 years. To that end, it creates another alternative housing option in Olivet. Our community is comprised predominantly of single family homes, and most of the rental stock in this community, other than what's being built at the former City Hall, I think the newest thing other than that is probably 30 years old, and those units are small and they don't feature amenities, and it's a different world now in the rental market, and consumers are looking for that maker space or that yoga studio, that gym, that ability to walk within the development and not have to just come out onto Olive. And then as we will, I believe, prove out quite well to the TIF Commission and to all of you, that our investment has greatly increased over the last iteration of the plan, which will yield a much better financial result and tax revenue across a more stable tax stream of real estate taxes that benefits the city, benefits the schools, special school district, the county, and that this is a win-win-win deal for everybody. And for those reasons and many more, it is our hope that you would convene the TIF Commission. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for Mr. Yawitz? Anybody?
I do not have any questions.
I have one, but I was on mute. I'm sorry. With the residential, how many of you said it's 160 apartments?
Yeah, currently that's the plan. I mean, we obviously haven't finalized the plan, but that's what it looks like, yes.
And do you know, like, when they do that, will any of them be more than 2 bedrooms? Like, what's the mix in those, in that?
So generally, and I'd have to pull out again, the current sketches we haven't refined, but let's say 50%, give or take, 50 to 60% of the units are 1 bedrooms. There are some 2s and some 3s, but that would be, they'd be broken up. And some of the 2s will be a 1 bedroom, what's called a 1 bedroom plus that has an office built into it. Yeah, of the, if let's say 60% are 1s or studios, that's about 80, 90, and it's probably 90 something 1 in studios, and then the remaining 50 to 70 are made up of 2 and 3 bedroom units.
Thank you.
All right, council? do you
Madam
have-
Mayor,
Yes,
I do, and it really, it's more of a question to the city, not to Mr. Yowitz. And it deals with our regulations of, and I just don't recall, and I know we've made changes, our regulations as it relates to bedrooms and the gender of the children or child or parent or parents, and the blending of children in 1 bedroom if they are of the opposite sex. What do we have on our books with regards to that?
Greg, would you mind stopping sharing for a second so we can talk? We don't have any regulations with regard to the sharing of bedrooms.
So a girl and a boy can share the same bedroom? You have a parent in 1 room and a girl and a boy in the other bedroom when they're 13, 14, or 15 years old? We allow that in our city? I am just asking the question.
We don't have any regulations gone with regard to that. We would have no way of tracking it. I've not heard of anything like that. Paul?
No, I'm not aware of anything like that.
No.
I do think we have some kind of, in the building code, there are some kind of regulations about sizes of bedrooms and number of bedrooms, but
Not
of
occupants.
occupancy, but not gender specific.
University City has something similar to that. Missy, I know what you're talking about. Your city had something.
Thank you.
like that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious whether we did.
can I just get some clarification? Because now I'm very confused. We don't have anything like that on our books.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're talking about our city again. We don't have anything
Mhm.
like that. I'm not, okay.
No, we would have no way of tracking it. We don't take that type of information. Occupancy permits have a very bad history. They were, and we, at one point, the city would take names of all the occupants in a residence, and we don't do that anymore. For good
Oh,
reasons.
Madam Mayor, I did have one thing I forgot to add because
Sure.
with my reading glasses, I can't always see everything I write. I did want to mention, because a bunch of my own neighbors have been asking me this question. We are still working on bringing a grocery store to Olivet. As you well might imagine, as I mentioned earlier, and I should have been more specific, when it comes to retailers and their right now issues around making deals because of the pandemic, this applies to restaurants, general retailers, grocery stores, everything you can imagine. But in case any of you were wondering, I did want to mention that the grocery store being in the development is absolutely not off the table, and is something that has always been, as you all know, one of the key parts of, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to bring one. If the economy doesn't work out for me, that's all I can do, but it is still absolutely an option on the table.
Okay, anybody else? I will come back, council, to all of you. I'm just going to give the public an opportunity to speak. So, so again, if you, Maxine, do you want a question?
I have a question. During,
I'm going to do a last call.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Well, mine's not about not for Mr. Yowitz, but for you. When we go to comments, is it possible for because you have to bring the people over to make their comments, is it possible to show them so that we can see who we're speaking with or hearing from?
I'm going to let them decide if they want to put their video on. I will ask them for their name and address. But if they choose to not put their video on,
Okay.
We didn't ask people to get dressed to
Right.
come
That's
to
true,
this.
But you know, if possible, it's just nice to see who we're hearing from, so we can faces to names. Thank you.
Agree. I agree, but this is a Zoom world we're living in.
I know, but if possible, and if you're not in your bathrobe.
Right.
Thank you.
My objective is not to embarrass anybody.
I agree. Thank you.
So, if you wish to address the council, please raise your hand. I'm going to ask that you state your name and address for the record. I will ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I know that you may have questions for Mr. Yowitz. I'm going to ask that you simply ask the question, and when your time is up, I'm going to let him answer it for you. What I'm trying to avoid is an ongoing multi-minute dialogue. That's not what this is. It's simply to state your question or your concern, and then if Mr. Yowitz can address it, he will. If he cannot, if it's simply a statement of whatever you want to say, then we'll move you off from the panelist side and then move somebody back on again. The last thing I'm going to ask is, we are in the holiday season, and this has been an extremely difficult year for everyone. And I ask that we all please remember that we all live here. We're all neighbors, and that we treat each other with that sort of kindness. It really has been that kind of year. So to that, if you wish to address the council, I do have some questions I know in the Q&A, and we're going to get to those. But if you wish to address the council, please raise your hand, and the city manager will bring you over. Barb?
Mayor, where would you like to start? Do you want to start in the Q&A, or do you want to start? There's a couple of chats.
Let's do the Q&A first, and then we'll get to the people that want to speak. So from
Okay.
Rebecca Rubin, Shalansky, she asked exactly what type of apartment you will offer: studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or larger. I think you answered that question already, Greg, but if you want to reiterate it one more time, that's fine.
Sure. So as I said earlier, the majority of these units, the largest group will be of studios and 1 bedrooms. That'll probably make up, and again, we don't have this finally engineered, and once we do, lines can move and so forth. But I'd say the majority will be 1 bedrooms and studios, and the remainder will be made up of more 2 bedrooms than 3 bedrooms. I think in the last iteration I saw, we had a grand total of 8 3-bedroom units. So you can do the math backward. I can try to check one of my plans, but again, I don't want to commit to that because we haven't designed the building yet. It's all conceptual. So
okay,
I can take a look at that during the next question.
All right. Leslie, you have a question. Do you want to raise your hand, Leslie? And are you still here?
Where did she go?
Oh, I don't see her. All right, well, Leslie, if you come back on while we're still doing this, please raise your hand and I will bring you over. I apologize. Christina Hansen, how many parking spaces go to the 160 units?
Oh, sorry about that. I was trying to pull a set of plans up on my screen and I only have a single monitor here at the house. So right now what we're looking at is about 220 to 240. We want to make sure we have about I think it's 1.4 to 1.6 spaces per apartment. We may, depending on how things shake out, for example, with if we're able to land a grocery store, we may need extra parking in the garage for that. But ballpark 220 to 240 right now.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have in the Q&A. I have some in the chat. I will read those. Stand by.
There's
Okay,
I don't know, it's Robert Snidman and Frank Proctor wrote in the chat. Do you want to
Yeah, I'm
ask them
gonna-
if they want to speak?
if you want to
Or-
speak, if these individuals would like to speak, please raise your hand. If you don't want
Or
to,
we can just read them too. I
I'm happy to read them.
wasn't sure if you were trying to gather the names but I guess they have their full names, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'll just read their chat. I would like to express my concern. This is from Robert Snidman. I would just like to express my concern about the planned construction of the large apartment complex at the project at Olive and Price, and ensuing increase in students at reduced schools. Smaller class size is one of the hallmarks of a quality education, and we would like to continue to maintain the excellent schools we currently have in our community. So you don't have to respond, Mr. Yowitz. That's entirely up to you. From Mr. Proctor, please make clearer that only reason for this is the change for residential usage is this is a big difference. And Mr. Snidman repeated his comment again with his address, 16 Ramsgate Drive. Mr. Person asked about the grocery store. I think that's been answered. So I think Mr. Person has his answer there. You're welcome. All right, any other questions or comments? Mr. Hansen has his hand up. Barb, if you'd like to bring him over, you're welcome to do so. And Mr. Hansen, please state your name and address for the record and keep your comments kindly to 3 minutes or less.
I will.
If
Bill
you'd like
Hanson.
to,
Or go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, if you would like to have your video on, just let me know.
I would. Sorry, on this computer, I don't have a video. I'll have it for
Okay,
next
that's
meeting.
fine.
Sorry. Bill Hanson, 817 North Price. With COVID and fluidity in the plans for the development, what steps is Olivet taking to keep from a situation like Centene, where a TIF is provided, but the developer does not complete the stated goals? I mean, stated goals of the development.
Barb, you want to address that in the redevelopment agreement?
Yeah, a lot of the terms would be spelled out in the redevelopment agreement, and the actual financial obligation of the project remains the developers. It's not the cities. And so they're developed in that way so that the city isn't on the hook for any of those funds. So I don't know, Paul, if you have more to add from a legal perspective. And just so folks know, Paul Martin is the city attorney. A lot of times when we talk about the TIF or we talk about some development agreements, we also use Gilmore and Bell as legal counsel for some of those projects. But Paul's the person who's with us all the time and has done quite a few of these in his other cities.
I would only say that in smaller projects where there's public infrastructure, it is common and even required that the developer provide some security for making those public improvements. With a TIF project, especially with one that is large, I haven't seen that tool used in a redevelopment agreement. It can be explored, but I think the reality is that the economy is going to dictate what happens. I mean, there's not much you can do if everything goes into the tank. As Ms. Sondag mentioned, it would be at the developer's risk and not at the city's risk. So Mr. Spikerman might have more to add in terms of, what kind of security you can negotiate, but that's my best answer for right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see anybody else's hand up. Oh, Leslie, you're back. All right, Leslie. We lost you for a moment there.
I know my computer got all messed up. Do you want me to?
Okay, Leslie, do you want your video on?
Yeah, I can put it on.
Okay.
Am I on? Oh. I,
Should be coming up now.
Where'd she go?
I think we lost her in her effort to flip over.
She's rejoining
There
as
you
a,
go.
well,
Okay.
she's rejoining as a panelist to have her video on.
Okay. You're muted, Leslie. There you go. You're
There she is.
muted. You're muted.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so I'm curious about, my name is Leslie Ricard. I live at 676 North Price Road, which is 3/10 of a mile from the new shopping center and office building complex. And my curiosity has to do with whether you have done any studies, Mr. Yawitz, on the the necessity of apartments. I understand you're having to pivot from your original plan, but also I'm guessing you're also familiar with what's going on in U City at Delmar in 170 and their shopping center with Charles Deutsch, I guess, is doing that one. And when you were mentioning about the apartments and the difference between the office buildings, if you do the math at 160 apartments and some are 2-bedroom, then the amount of cars could also be like 320 versus the 400 coming and going. And again, I just worry about the density, the traffic, the trash, things like that. For example, when the repair work was being done on Delmar and on Dillman, and they had the detour, I suddenly had McDonald's trash bags and wrappers all over my yard. And again, I don't live over there. So we were hoping for a small grocery. And I know that you're saying now about the office building, but again, I think that you're adding a lot of density of apartments. And so again, if the question is about studying whether there's a need for that, because if you're talking about a hotel and now apartments, that's really going to be adding density to that area.
So if I understand your question correctly, so one, yes, we have studied whether this is viable for the market and fully believe that it is. Two, just to give you an idea, I pulled up a set of plans. And again, these are in progress plans, so they will change. But the unit breakdown of this version that I see from November 23rd has 20 studios, 84 1-bedrooms. So 104 of the 160 are 1-bedrooms or smaller.
Right. Okay.
48 2-bedrooms and 8 3-bedrooms. And so from that, at least the data that we have on apartments, and my partners in this own and manage thousands of units, not the least of which is Clayton on the Park or the Euclid in the Central West End. And they actually see a reduction in vehicles. And so our architecture originally drew in more parking. They believe that's actually not required. And I would argue that the data will prove out that this will actually be less of an impact on traffic and on density in the project. It's a little more structure. Well, it's about the same structure size as the office building and garage would have been under the currently approved plan. As it relates to trash, I will tell you, and I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I've lived here for 27 years. My dad was in the first graduating class of Ladue. My wife went to Ladue. My kids went to Ladue. I care about all of this. And I'll tell you that with Price Crossing, I pay a service twice a week to come clean the lot. Is it perfect? It never is. Do I love people who leave trash in my lot? They're my favorite. In the case of this building, what we have designed is that the trash will actually be kept inside the building in rolling containers and pulled out for pickup day, because I don't want garbage outside the building. I'm a stickler for cleanliness. My friends make fun of me sometimes and say, well, don't you pay somebody to pick up the trash in the parking lot? And I say, well, if I see it, I'm going to pick it up. And so obviously I probably can't do that on a 14-acre project by myself, but we'll have full-time maintenance people attending to all of those needs. So, I'm trying to put together a project that respects the neighborhood, that provides amenities and is stable for the long run for our community, because I'm not moving. And most people know where I live.
Right. And again, it was, just something that had to do with the U City project on top of it. And I feel like I'm being boxed in with traffic because of the east end of Olivet. There's going to be a lot of congestion now with the, again, I know that you're going to be making adjustments with the getting to and from the inner belt, and it's just a very congested corner now. And, and so I just wanted to continue to make you aware that as a resident in that area, and I know I'm not the only one, that we do have some concerns because of everything that's happening there. And we know, again, we do know that it's great to have something there because it had been nothing, and you've done a lot for that. But I think that, I just want to encourage you to continue to be aware of the density issue in that location that you're growing.
Absolutely.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, Leslie, I'm going to make you an attendee again, okay?
Yes.
All right. One more chat question. Given this proposed plan for the number of one-bedroom studio, I'm assuming that means apartments, and the two-bedroom apartment, how does this change the percentage of family-size rentals for all of that? Can I just speak to this issue of family sizes and rentals and things like that? Because I'm the oldest member of the city council, and at some point in time, for me, downsizing is a reality. But downsizing doesn't mean I want to live in a shoebox. It means that I'm going to need a little more, some space, but not maybe as much as I currently have. And I'm the kind of person who is going to be looking at a two-bedroom apartment, because, you can't take something and move it from the size that it is to tiny size in one fell swoop. And so I know that we continue to believe that the people who will occupy two-bedroom apartments are going to be parents and a child. But the fact of the matter is that it may very well be people just like me who don't want to live in a home anymore and take care of a home, but want to be in an apartment. It will also be the more senior person than me who wants to continue to live in Olivet, but can no longer live in their home, but isn't ready to go to assisted living or any sort of living like that, but wants an apartment sort of situation, and may want the luxury of having more space and two bedrooms. So I think that, we immediately jump to conclusions that that these rentals are going to be family-sized rentals, and that they're going to house parents and children. They really could house older people like me. So I really want people to think about that from a different perspective and understand that we have a seriously large population in Olivet that is 55 and older that may no longer need to live in the homes that they're living in, but would like to stay in Olivet. So it's perspective sometimes that we have to change. So I don't
Madam
know.
Mayor, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor, I'd actually add, when I was 23 years old, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment myself because I had moved to Missouri from California and had a lot of stuff and needed a place to put it, and it wouldn't fit in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so I used, the second room as an office and a storage area. And so, we see exactly what you're talking about, which is just because it's a 2-bedroom does not mean it has children in it.
Yep.
Will there be children in the building? I am certain there'll be children. There'll be some children in the building. There always are. Well, do we expect this building to be full of children? That's not what apartment living is generally about. And these are not going to be the most inexpensive units. As I mentioned, we're planning on providing world-class A-level amenities, yoga studios, a maker studio for those of you that are familiar with it, where you may need that second bedroom because you sell stuff on Etsy and you want to make it. And we have a space for that with tool rentals, the recording studio, the common kitchen, game rooms. This is going to be a vibrant community building that will house a full spectrum of ages of people.
Right. Okay.
Just not to pile on, but I have never rented an apartment of less than 2 bedrooms. When I was young and did not own a house, I've had 2-bedroom apartments, and I've had 3-bedroom townhouses for myself.
Right. I hope for the listening audience, I hope that changes your perspective a little bit, because now you've heard from people of different age ranges and in different circumstances. 2-bedroom doesn't mean kids. It means simply people that want more space. And that could be me, or that could be Greg, or that could be Greg Yowitz, or it could be any number of the other people here too. I really want us to keep things in perspective and to think differently. That's all. All right, there is a question in the chat, and then I'll get to the hands raised. Christina Hansen on North Price Road. What is the unit size of the Oliver development? I don't know off the top of my head. Barb?
I would have to look that up. I don't know off the top, but I'll try and look it up before we're done.
Those are primarily studio and 1-bedroom, is that correct? With a couple of 2 bedrooms, maybe?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I believe you're right, but I'd prefer to check.
Yep, okay. Again, 2-bedroom doesn't mean kids. All right, Mr. Minton, would you like to come over and speak with us?
Do you want your video on, Mark?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, 1 second. You're going to disappear for just a second.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to. You should be able to
There's
start your video.
There we go. Okay,
There you are.
Mayor, great point about the occupancy. I would just point out that, as residents, we're hoping that you guys are preparing for the worst case scenarios and the most stress that could be put onto the school system and address it properly. And I know you will. I'm sure you guys are looking from all angles. I don't have a question, but I have more of a comment. As we all bought our homes in Stoneleigh Towers, the commercial property that we abut to had a building height restriction of 45 feet. And a large part of this proposed building development was residential. It was rezoned commercial. And so as we face a tremendous amount of give and take in a large project like this, I would just really plead to the council that they keep the best interest of the residents in mind. The comments that Greg made regarding the grocery store are tremendously concerning, as that was one of the most anticipated benefits to the community. And if we're going to be planning with that to be a possibility, we need to justify the exceptions that we're giving him to our building codes and our regulations to affect our community. We need to make sure that that the community benefit is first and foremost addressed here. And I look forward to a wonderful development. Price Crossings is fabulous. I use it all the time. I'm certainly pro-development. I just want to make sure that it's done in the best manner for everybody and all that. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Minton. Barb, would you bring Mr. Proctor over?
Let me move Mark back over.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. And Mr. Proctor, would you like to have your video on?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. I will. Okay. It'll ask you then, you can just turn on your video now and unmute yourself. There you are.
My name is Frank Proctor. I live in Stony Towers, have for over 40 years now. You jumped to some conclusions about the meaning of my question about the number of bedrooms and how the apartments would be used. And I understand there's a lot of different families, a lot of different individuals need different numbers of bedrooms. That was not the issue, nor it was a judgment about whether there would be children in the apartments. And I'm sorry that you jumped to that conclusion and then made certain judgments about the value of that question. The question is similar to the one that was asked by another person. I'm just curious, in terms of our total number of apartments or rental spaces available in Olivet, have you evaluated whether or not we need more single units or more 2 or 3 bedroom apartments for the space that we are, given that we are not on a very good commuter line, so that it has to be rented by people who drive mostly, rather than some of the spaces that are being created by apartments in the Central West End, which is primarily a pedestrian area, or the Clayton, which is also easy for pedestrian access instead of those who own automobiles. I'm just curious about the proportion of apartments we already have, or rental spaces we already have, compared to those that are planned, the percentage in this particular project.
Are you asking that of the developer or of the city?
Of the city. So
Okay.
can the city tell the developer we need more double 2 or 3 bedrooms than the number you have proposed already?
Okay.
Or less?
Okay. A couple of things. One is the city wouldn't typically get to that level of detail in directing the developer for a number of reasons. One is we're not a developer, and one would anticipate and expect the developer to have done the research and to look at what the market would want, and to have done that research because it's what they do for a living. What the city does, however, on a higher policy level, is we look at and the strategic plan calls out for a mix of housing, different types of housing. And that's actually one of the pillars in one of the goals within our community development is to ensure that there's a mix of housing. How this fits in, we are predominantly a single family residential community, and that's what most of the redevelopment is. So we would look at it from the city and the council and the planning commission would all be looking at it. How does it fit within the strategic plan, and how does it fit within this goal of having a mix of housing stock? Just as And so, but the developer themselves would look at what's the market calling for. So that's how I would answer that question.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Proctor? I hope so. And I apologize, I did not mean to belittle your question. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to discuss a different perspective on the issue of apartments and who lives in them and what, why people would, like me, would want more than just a bedroom. That's all. I did not mean anything by it, and I apologize if you took it in a way it was not meant. I don't see any other hands up, nor do I see any questions.
Mayor, I
Yep.
do have a piece of information with the Oliver, the housing, the mix
Mhm.
is 20 studios, 89 one bedrooms and 42 two bedrooms.
20 studios, what was that?
20 studios, 89 one bedrooms and 42 two bedrooms.
All right, that answers whoever's question that was. And I think it's worth noting that, 39 North, 39 North, sorry, I gave it a different parallel. 39 North is a project that, to my understanding, is still on the drawing board and is expected to draw in people in the ag industry from all over the world. And, this is, these are also some of the people that they look to attract. So,
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure you got, I see one in chat. I'm not sure you got to.
I think I answered that
Was
one.
it River Spring?
It's a new one from Sarah. Yeah.
one.
All right, hold on. Oh, in chat, I'm sorry, my bad. Do we know how many more students Old Bonham can handle?
No,
Um,
prior to that,
From Stoneley?
from
Oh,
Sarah Spring.
All right, hold on, stand by. It just didn't pop up in my chat. Sarah Spring, 171 Stony Towers. Cannot speak right now because I need to put my toddlers to bed. Wanted to hear this meeting, but I do have a question for Greg. When we purchased our home, we didn't even know there were other homes behind us on the alley that's now being demolished because the greenery was so dense. Now you can see our home from Olive clear as day. Can Greg possibly speak to any changes in the barrier between the homes in Stony Towers and the development?
Sure. So, and maybe this, and Sarah, you may not be aware of this. So earlier in the process, one of the things that I talked about, and we talked back and forth with some of the people in your neighborhood, was that Olivet currently had a maximum height of 6 feet on fences. And what we requested as part of our redevelopment was an 8-foot high solid barrier. It's a wall system that's used. It has all kinds of textured looks. We haven't picked the actual texture yet, but can act also as a sound barrier, and it will sit on our property line. And I'm not, they're at 171. So I think where you are, that will sit over your property line on ours. And then beyond that, there's a retaining wall that goes down. So the finished floor of the building will actually be, I'm not sure exactly where 171 falls, but it'll be anywhere from 5 to 12 feet lower. And so the height from the finished floor of the building and the drive lane to the top of the fence in some parts reaches over 22 feet. But on your side, you'll see it'll be 8 feet in your backyard, and it'll have either a stone or a wood look to it. Again, we haven't presented that to PCDC, that exact specification yet. Hopefully that answers the question. And that fence will run from Price Road all the way through the development, all the way to the very back tip of the property on our development.
Okay, thank you. From Mark is, do we know how many more students Old Bonham can handle? Strategic planning is really the bailiwick of the school district. And I am going to make a leap of faith here and say that the school district is not just planning for today, but that they are planning for 10 years from now. I know that they're coming to the voter in April with a $125 million bond request. And that will factor deeply into their planning and into their strategic needs. I know they are expanding Old Bonham School. Their two busiest schools right now are Old Bonham and Spady. I think it's Old Bonham and Spady. Right.
Katie?
Right. Whereas Reed and Conway are not crowded at all. And you could talk about that for a long time as to why that might be the case.
Right. I
But-
will, just to be, just so people know too, the school district determines where children go to school. It's not done in a, when new housing is developed, they can't, so for instance, Greg couldn't advertise his apartments by saying your children will go to Old Bonham School. The school district will actually make that determination when new developments occur. And so it could go so while Old Bonham is one of the schools, is really the only school in Olivet now. In the past when we had a lot more, but the kids that live here go to different schools, and where they live does not necessarily indicate where they'll go to school.
Right. So, I think that those are the kinds of questions, Mark, that you really need to ask the school district with regard to how many more students can they handle. But I would suspect that the new plans that they've just given to the city for approval, or at least for approval, that they, they're planning for the future, and they're planning for any possible growth, and that is their job. And I'm sure that they're on top of that situation. So, all right. I do not see any more questions in chat. Does anybody see anything I missed? No. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. No. And I don't see any more hands raised. So I'm going to conclude this portion of public conversation and public questioning. And we're going to go back now to the council. So council, do you have any questions or comments that you want to make before I ask someone to make a motion? Anybody?
I do not.
No one? All right, then I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, that we approve Resolution 2020-202, a resolution convening the Tax Increment Financing Commission of the City of Olivet, Missouri, in connection with a proposed Second Amendment to the Gateway I-170 Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Final comments or questions, council? All right, hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, thank you, council. Thank you, residents, for participating in this conversation. There'll be more to come. In that note, let me just say this for people who may have never attended a meeting before or are not familiar with our notifications. We have a veritable grab bag of possible ways to be notified about things that are going on here in the city. The communications director is on Nextdoor. So she will put notices on Nextdoor. So if you're on Nextdoor, you should just look for the City of Olivet and whatever that a relationship that you have to click together there. I'm not a Nextdoor person, so I don't know, but that click on and make sure that you find the City of Olivet. She posts on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, friend the City of Olivet, and you'll be able to see the notifications on Facebook. There are notifications on our website, and you can go to our website and sign up for notifications that come to you, and you can select the notifications that you want. And if it's meeting notifications that you want, you can select those, and every meeting that happens at the city, you will get notified about the time and date and all of that. We have a newsletter. It comes out quarterly. The city manager's report is done at our meetings on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesdays of every month, and she does lots of notifications in that. I hold a coffee with the mayor once a month, and you can certainly come and we do a little program, and then it's, open questions. So there are plenty of ways for the residents to become notified or to get information from the city about the city. We have a website that is a robust website, lots of information out there. And did I miss anything in terms of notifications? Twitter, if you tweet, the communications director tweets too. We are pretty robust in our ability to communicate and how we do communicate with people. And there's lots of information there for you to find on the website. So I implore you to go and sign up for notification so you can find out when all of these meetings are going to happen as they are going to happen and in advance. So you can attend, you can listen, and you can comment. And I think I've said all I need to say about that. So,
Mayor, I
yes,
would
sir.
add that on our website, the city manager's reports are under Department City Manager Reports to Council.
There you go. So if you miss one of our fantastic Tuesday, 2nd or 4th Tuesday of the month city council meetings, you can get the city manager's report on the city's website. So there are plenty of ways for you to find out what's really going on here. And, we can put the information out, and in ways we can push it out, but in ways you'll also need to come and get it. So that is our information grab bag. And I am ready to move on to the next item.
Item number 12, hearing from citizens, part 2.
All right. Wow, we get to hear from each other again.
There's a question in the Q&A, but it might be for Greg.
Okay, I'm gonna
I'm sorry. I should have moved Greg over. Do you want me to keep him there?
just keep him for 1 second because this question
Okay. Apologize.
So the question from Christina Hansen is, what is the status of reconstruction at Starbucks? Is there an expected reopening date? Has there been a drop in tax revenue since Starbucks has been closed? Also, what is the status of the tall weeds in the fenced-in area at Olive Crossing?
Okay, so I'll take the Starbucks one first. My hope is that they are opening in a couple of weeks. As I understand it from the representatives of Starbucks, they are not just repairing the damage. They are planning a more substantial upgrade of the store because it's the old layout that's been there for the 14 years that the building has been there. And it is not going as quick as possible because the pandemic has also caused construction supply chain issues. For example, glass, which you used to be able to get in 1 or 2 days, takes 3 weeks now, if you're lucky. So I'm a caffeine junkie. I need that store back open. My office is on the 2nd floor. So as soon as possible is good for me. So hopefully before Christmas. And as to the weeds, so inside the fence area, what we've done is we've trimmed around the fence, and I've had conversations with the planning and the building department about this. I believe it is actually better that we let weeds grow because they create ground cover and hold the dirt together and prevent soil from washing away. And I think the longer we wait to do that, the better. Is it perfectly optimal? No. It is also very dangerous to get mowers in there because there are very steep grades and a lot of hazards in there. So we have, I've instructed my team to trim it back from the fence in a number of feet. We put up a number of banners also to sort of shield the look as best we could. But I think actually environmentally, it's better that we let the vegetation grow because it holds the soil together. But as I've told Mr. Trejo in the building department, that if there's a problem and we need to address it, we are more than happy to do that.
Is there anyone else that wants to ask a question? All righty. We are going to move on then.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Owitz. You can move him
Get you out of here, Greg.
back to participant. Thank you. All right. Next item, please.
Item number 13, review and approval of minutes.
Council, did anybody see anything that needed to be amended?
Negative.
Oh, man.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from the past 2 work sessions.
Second.
Can you state the dates, please?
If someone told them to me.
June 2nd. No, I'm sorry.
No.
May 5th and June 2nd.
May 5th and June 2nd.
Oh, May 5th and June 2nd.
Thank you. And has it been seconded?
It's still second.
Thank you. Okie dokie. All right, it's been motioned and second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Next item,
Item number 14, city attorney's report.
Mr. Martin, welcome. You're double header tonight. It's a double
Yeah.
header for you.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Unfortunately, I have a couple of items I do want to report on, but I want to report on them in closed session.
Okay,
So that would be under 610-021.1.
just for those listening, can you just, like 3 sentences, why we're allowed, why we can go to closed session? Why are we allowed to?
State law allows cities to close meetings to discuss matters that might have particular impact to the city in the context of legal actions, which is what 610-021.1 is, or property, or sometimes personnel. There's several different exceptions that allow you to close meetings, and this is one of them.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, did you give us our numbers, 610?
021.1, so moved.
It's been moved. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please poll the council.
Councilmember Weil,
Yes.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Chairman Clark,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
I want to thank the audience for attending the meeting tonight. The council is going to go into a closed session now, and that means it is closed to the public. I don't have any idea when we're coming back out of closed session, but I don't expect any votes to be taken when we step out of closed session, so. So I thank you all for coming, and happy holidays to everyone.
Okay.
I make a motion, we go back into open session.
All right, the council has returned from closed session. There were no decisions made. We have nothing to report. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
second, third.
This
Fourth.
meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
You're
Everybody.
welcome.
Night, everybody.